My question is, sometimes when I share my screen to show a YouTube video, the audio does not work. How can I rectify this problem?
Whenever you share your screen, there is option called as basic, advanced, and files on the top. And below, there are two options called as share a sound and optimize for a video clip. So whenever you're sharing a video either from YouTube or even a video from your local desktop, ensure that you put a click or on the share sound. Only when you click on the share sound, whatever sound that comes from your local desktop through the YouTube video or through the local file that you are sharing will be audible to the participants. So the many of the people, what they do is they share the screen, but they don't tick in share sound. Only when you tick, the sound will be audible to everyone.
I wanted to ask regarding the screen sharing only. What are the best practices while sharing my files during the meetings?
Okay, because I'm using my external HD cam, so I have 3 meters length of camera here. So easily it's possible for me to use this as a second camera. So these are the options when you are having the access to share the screen. Okay, so you will have an option to share the entire screen, or to share only the particular slide, or to share any particular things like if you are sharing your website, that particular page you can share. There are two options, like one is basic, another one is advanced. If you click basic, either you can share the individual file or the screen. If you are using sound, you make sure that you click the sound here, which Toastmaster Ramanujam explained. And also if you are using video, click optimize for a video clip, so that even with the poor internet connection also, it optimize and make sure that there won't be any stoppage during the entire sharing period. And if you click advanced option, you will have multiple options. The new version of Zoom is providing to use a PowerPoint as a virtual background. For example, if you click this particular, it will take you to any PowerPoint slide, and that will be in your background. And also you can use the content from the second camera if you're having dual camera options. And only the portion of the screen also you can share. And during the meeting, you would have seen that many, they play only the audio clips, the instrumentals. So just you click computer audio and share all your MP3 files. And you also have the option to share only the videos. Or other than this, if you have any specific files in your cloud storage like a Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive, SharePoint, everything you can share it from this option. So the most important option is that in a basic version, which most of the Toastmasters, we use it for our regular meetings, don't share the entire screen if it will affect your privacy. So go there and share a specific file so that participants will be more comfortable in seeing your slides. So the best practice is that before sharing anything in a presentation, do it yourself at your home and make sure that if others are seeing this content, are you comfortable? If yes, do share only that content.
I have a question here. What points to be considered while sharing PowerPoint, video, and animation? What points to be considered while sharing PowerPoint, video, and animation?
If you are sharing this PowerPoint as Namita mentioned as a share screen, which means the whole application will be on screen. You will move to the side as a thumbnail and you will be presenting. Whereas there is an option to use PowerPoint as a background, which means the entire PowerPoint will not be visible. You will be within the PowerPoint. You will appear as if you are within the PowerPoint. While doing that, you need to ensure that while creating the PowerPoint, you leave yourself some space in the real estate where you're going to stay in the screen. That's number 2. Number 3, you might have created fancy animations or transitions on your PowerPoint slides. None of those things will be appearing when you convert this thing and you are on the screen. None of these transitions or animations will be appearing. Because if you are there, picture in picture within the slide, it would have converted all the PowerPoints to images and you'll be just playing images. The transition wouldn't appear the way you wanted it.
When the audience are viewing, before we share a PPT, just put it on PowerPoint view, slideshow, and then you just use the control, the tab alt, and move to the Zoom window. So you will have an extra option of the PowerPoint, the slide share to be directly shared. So they will not be able to see that your entire file, but directly it will be sharing the PowerPoint. That sometimes is useful, especially when you're in a contest and you're about to announce the best speaker, the best even in a normal Toastmaster meeting when you're going to announce. Otherwise, people can see their names in the side.
How annotation and whiteboard works during the presentation? How can you use it?
It's a very interesting facility available in a Zoom platform. One is whiteboard, another one is annotation. Whiteboard is just like any other flip chart, what you are using it in a normal meeting. The flip chart, you can consider it as a whiteboard, and you have multiple options to choose the sketch and choose the color, and you can delete and you can redraw. So those things can be done in a whiteboard setting. But provided it should be a licensed version, and in your settings, the whiteboard has to be enabled so that you will get an option to use the whiteboard. Mostly for a business presentation, if you want to present it to your team, so you want to ask, for example, in a regular Toastmasters training session, you're asking feedback from the trainees. So what are the points from viewpoints of yours? So you can make a note of it so that they will be valued that their point is being considered and discussed in the forum. So those things, you can use it as a whiteboard and you can make a note of all those things. So this is regarding the whiteboard. Annotation is the same like whiteboard flip chart presentation, provided there is an option for other person to interpret in your presentation. Like if you give the annotation enabled, for example, if DTM Shaiju is presenting one of the presentation, if Toastmaster DTM Ramanujam is having another inputs to give it, he can use it from his own system. He can draw things, he can work on it, he can erase it, he can do some marking over there. That is annotation. So you are interpreting, so you are allowing other participants to interpret on your presentation. So that is the way you can use the annotation for any group discussions. It's mostly used, whiteboard and annotation used for democratic kind of decision making. You are involving all the participants in a meeting. So that's the best way to use both annotation and whiteboard.
Options are available under that green button you see, which is share screen. That's where it pops up, and that's where you have all the options.
How can you have poll in Zoom meeting, and what are the different poll options available for that?
Yes.
With regard to polls, first and foremost thing that one has to remember is only the host, that is the owner of the account, can set up the polls. Example, if Shaiju is the owner of the account and he has started the meeting, later he made me as the host for the meeting, will I be able to create the polls? The answer is no. So it is only the original host or the owner, to be more specific, who has the registered and paid account. That user ID or that concerned person only can create the polls. Before you can create the polls, first you need to check whether the polls are enabled first. Go to your Zoom Pay login and go to settings. In settings, there is something called in meeting basic. When you click on the in meeting basic, come down, you will have something called meeting polls and quizzes. So allow the host to add polls before everyone. Just enable it. Once you enable, then only the poll will be applicable for the meetings. Okay, I have enabled the polls. Now, how do I go about and create the questions? There are two different ways of creating the polls. One, if I am going through the web portal of Zoom and I go to meetings, under meetings, the polls can be created for the upcoming meeting or even if the meeting is in progress. So if it is an upcoming, click on that meeting. When you come down, you have something called where this settings should be enabled, then only you'll get this poll option. Under the polls, click on create. and you just need to type the question. Example. So now I have created the polls. Now, how do I go about and launch the poll? You need to come to your Zoom meeting. If you see down, there is something called as polls. Click on that polls. Once you click on that polls, you will have the question that what you created in the web portal. What is your favorite color? Red, green, blue. And down there is a box called launch polls. Click on the launch polls. Then the attendees are now viewing the question, and you will also see how many people have voted, how many members, out of which how many members who have voted, still how many have not voted. Give a sufficient amount of time. Once you get the majority of the votes or the time has been elapsed, click on end poll. Once you click on the end poll, you will have the results, how many votes for each of the options, and what the highest will be declared as the winners. In a contest, say for example, not in a contest, for in a typical Toastmaster meeting, normally when the TMOD asks the Zoom master to put up the polling for the best speaker, best evaluator, and after the polling is over, it is not mandatory for you to share the results, because you will note down this. Say for example, in this question, the maximum votes was got for blue. You just note down it is blue and you send it to the TMOD and he will declare. Imagine if it is in case of where it is being used as an educational presenter, where they wanted to know the feedback for a question, where you want the entire audience to know the answers. Then click on share results. Once you click on the share results, then the entire attendees would be knowing what is the poll results. So this is one way of setting up the polls through a web portal. The other way is through a Zoom desktop app that you have installed. In that, again, you click onto that polls. It will take you to the same Zoom web portal and where you create the questions and then you launch the poll. The trick here is, if there are co-hosts in the meeting, the co-host cannot vote in the polling. They can just look how much votes have come, how many people have voted. So whenever you're launching a poll, ensure that you remove the co-host access to all such members, then launch the poll. Once the poll is over, then again you give back the co-host facilities. To summarize, the poll option is available only to the owner of the account. Even later, once the meeting starts, some other person is being made as a host or a co-host, he may not have access to create the poll questions. And the co-host cannot vote. Ensure that you revoke the co-host access at the time of polling.
Toastmaster amazing. See, when you share the polls, anyway, the number of people voted for that particular person will appear, right?
Only the host and co-host, when they view the results, it will show the number of people and percentage both. For the general audience, when you share the results, it will appear only as a percentage. It will not show the numbers. So that is the settings at Zoom. And also, I would like to add one point. When you're creating a poll, it is good to tick mark the anonymous. When you tick mark the anonymous, even the Zoom master or anybody involved in there, nobody knows who voted for whom or what was the voting. They can see only how many people have voted. And also there is an option, if it is non-anonymous, you can go back and download the list of people who voted for whom as well. As a participant, when the results are shared on screen, it will be visible only as percentage. This is only to rule it out. For example, only 5 members are attending a meeting. So 1 member is voted and 2 members voted and announced as a winner. So instead, if you put it in a percentage, it will be appealing. That is the one reason. And also, if a same person logged in a same username. For example, I'm using my laptop and iPad using the same username and password for my Zoom application, and I use two devices. My voting rights will be automatically either dissolved or only one of my device will be given access. It is automatically made in Zoom platform that with the same ID with multiple devices, you cannot do voting.
My question is, who can record it? What are the options where we can record a meeting? The second one is, how can we retrieve the recording of the meeting? Where will it get saved?
So now recording is an option available to both the host and the co-host. There are two options. Either you can record it locally on your laptop or on the cloud. Now, for a host and the co-host, it's usually the cloud is better because you have a larger space storage over there. But when you move to a breakout rooms and you want to record each breakout room, we would suggest that the co-host record it locally on their computer, so it's easier for us to compile it all together, because it can't be recorded on a cloud altogether. Now, just to show you some recording settings that can be done, I'll just share my screen as well. Just to share the screen, there are some settings that are available for the recording also. So you can go and switch on the settings for the local recording. The host can give meeting participants permission to record locally, any participant for that matter. Then in cloud recording, here you have an option to customize how your recording will look like. So there is if you want to record the active speaker with shared screen, if you want to record the gallery view with shared screen, or if you want to record all the three separately, that is all possible. And even an audio file, and also save the chat messages. All this is available. Just remember, this is not available on a free Zoom account. It is just for the business accounts. This option is available. And even in the cloud recording settings, there are advanced settings which are like the timestamp to the recording. Then the display participants' names are there. Then the thumbnails are recorded as well. So all these options are there for the cloud recording. Now, how do you go and access the cloud recording? Is in your Zoom account, there is something called recordings. So the person who has the account can go and share. For example, this is where all the cloud recordings are being saved. So if I want to go and share one particular, the last meeting, the recording, there is a share button over here. You can see the number, Zoom meeting number, share it over here. Here you have the option to restrict it. If you want to be shared, the recording to be shared publicly, that can be done, or only the authenticated viewers. Then you can even add an expiry date to that. If you can allow people to download this, you can by switching this on. Then there is a password protection also. Usually it comes in a very difficult password. So if you want to go and change the password also, which we usually do, it needs some different characters and all that. But if it can be done, that's better. So, and then in the end, there is a copy sharing information. So this will be shared to this will be copied to your clipboard, and you can go and share it with anybody. And this is how the information will look like: the topic, the access code, and all this is there. This is how we go and retrieve. Local recordings are usually recorded on your folder in your PC. It will be written Zoom. There will be a recording, or otherwise, if you want to go and change that also, that is also possible. So this is how it's usually done, the recording, the retrieval of the recording.
A quick question regarding the recording rooms possible in the breakout rooms. A recording possible in the breakout rooms?
Yes, it can be recorded locally.
My question is, suppose I have 5 different breakout rooms. So can I have 5 different recordings, as in for separate breakout rooms, I can have separate recordings and separate people can do it?
Yes, yes. Usually for a court, for example, we'll have people, if you have 5 breakout rooms, we'll have 5 co-hosts going with the trainers. They will be recording it locally. That means that person's local desktop, it will be recorded, and then they can share. So all the 5 can do the recording simultaneously.
And And if there are no, no 5 co-hosts, only one host, and say one co-host is there, they can still do it, or is it not possible?
Then if you are, for example, you're going into the room, then I can allow you to record. As a host, I can allow you to record. But it's easier for us to give you the co-host access as well, so that you can help the person in the breakout room. One person will be there to mute and things like that.
Once the cloud recording starts, then local recording would not be possible. So anybody who needs to do any local recording, they initiate that first, and then the host can start the cloud recording.
Yeah, one doubt here, right? Mr. Toastmaster Rohin was just mentioning that when we record, go for a cloud, the locally will get stopped or paused, whatever it is. Is it for? No, we'll not be able.
Once the cloud record is on, after that, if you give access to anybody to record, or if you give a co-host is trying to record on his own, automatically the recording will be permitted by Zoom, but he will not get it in his computer, and the priority goes to cloud recording. When the recording is on, it will go to cloud recording. So as the Toastmaster Sharon mentioned, pause the recording or stop the recording of the main session. And before starting the cloud recording of all the sessions, give the access to those who need a recording, even whether they are a co-host or even a normal participants, you can allow them to record on their computer. Okay, give that option. And once you make sure that you've given access to all the breakout room participants, then you start the cloud recording. So a host will have one copy of recording of the general event, where the host, even if the host is moving to one particular breakout room, that room will be recorded in cloud. If she is coming back to the main room, that will be there in the cloud. But individual other rooms, you would have given the access prior to start the cloud recording. So both will be available.
So my next question is, how can I live stream a Zoom meeting in YouTube and Facebook?
You have directly, you can do it on Facebook or on YouTube or on any third party. So there is no and. So if you want to do both YouTube and Facebook, then you create a stream link, and then a third party link you create, and then you put it on both YouTube and Facebook. So the options are available for the host on a paid account.
Live streaming, you will get 3 options. 1, live stream on YouTube. 2, live stream on Facebook. Even in Facebook, you have 2 options, a regular Facebook account or workspace. And third option is custom live streaming. That is what Toastmaster Rohin said. If you want to do same time both in Facebook and YouTube, you can have the option to custom live streaming. It can be done. But understand, in a Toastmasters setup, if anybody wants to go back and review when the meeting is going on, YouTube is the best. You can go back and review what happened. For example, 10 o'clock the meeting started and some of the viewers launched at 10:30. They can go back and watch from 10 o'clock. But if it is in Facebook, they can watch what's happening live only. So it's ideal. YouTube is best suitable for Toastmasters type of event, but you have the option to share the link of the YouTube at your Facebook. Instead going and doing the live streaming at Facebook, launch the link at your Facebook page so that it can be YouTube live streaming appearing in your Facebook pages.
Then is live editing possible during the live stream on Facebook or YouTube? Is it possible?
Short answer is no. Ideally, when you're live streaming, the host, whatever he is seeing on screen, whether it is gallery view or screen view or the person's view, that is what is going directly streamed onto the YouTube. Now, when it comes to editing, it is people ask about the editing the content, not possible. When it comes to moderating the comments there, it is not on the Zoom platform, it is on YouTube platform.
But one thing I can say that immediately after you stop the live streaming in YouTube itself, you have an option to edit it within YouTube. There are certain things you can edit and layout or presentation before you putting it in your website or something. For example, if there is a live meeting, you cannot edit during the meeting live. But before uploading to website, it can be edited. There is a provision in the live streaming studio itself of YouTube.
I wanted to ask regarding the Zoom registrations. How can I do the Zoom registrations, and can I create unique ID for the participants that only a particular ID person can enter the Zoom recording?
Okay. When you schedule a meeting, as Rohin Kumar explained some couple of minutes before, in that scheduling a meeting, you have an option called whether registration is required. So when you click on that box, then whenever you share the Zoom link, the people has to register first. Once you click on the registration, you also have the options to define what questions that you want to have in the registration form. There are some basic questions like first name, last name, email ID, and phone number. If you want to have a specific question, say for an example, a guest, how did he come to know about Toastmasters? Or if it is for a club officers training, from which club or from which division, all these questions can be set up. Once you give the link for Zoom to the participants, they will register. There are two types of approval. One called as an automatic approval and manual approval. This will be done by the host or the owner of the meeting. Once they register through a manual approval, they'll give an approval and say that your registration is approved and this is the Zoom details for you to log into the meeting. Automatic approval system automatically approves it and will provide you the credentials, user ID and password to log in for the meeting. So on the day of the meeting, there is the trick that what many of the participants fails to do. Say for an example, I have registered for the Zoom meeting with my Hotmail account, ramanujam.r@hotmail.com. And on that day of the meeting, when I asked the email ID, I put a Gmail ID, ramanujamr@gmail.com. Then the Zoom will not allow you to enter into the meeting and will say invalid credentials. Then suddenly everybody will say organizers have given a wrong ID, password, and all these things. So ensure that whatever email ID that you are given on the day of registration, the same email ID should be used at the timing of login to the meeting on the day. So if you do so, then there will be no confusion. All the process will be seamless.
One of the questions that we got for the COT was if we for the train the trainer was if we have registered using one ID and can we log in through two devices. So that was not allowed by, but I read online that it can be, there is one setting which can be done, I suppose, yes. Okay, which can be done. So which will allow you to, a registered participant to log in using two devices. Because sometimes, especially the trainers, if they want a backup device to be there in the same meeting, that's the case, I suppose.
But only thing, a simple suggestion is that choose the facilities according to the objective of the meeting. For example, any training sessions, it's most welcome to everyone. So make it so simple that everybody can attend. Some of the meetings like voting privileges are there. So you need to be so strict on allowing people inside. So these settings can be made according to the objective of the meetings.
So at times it is also possible that a person is using a paid account on his PC belonging to the club. The credentials are different and he's already signed into that Zoom application. He would have registered correctly, he would have given his ID correctly, but his account is registered in a different login. So it will not authenticate, it will not let him inside. He will say that I have attended so many meetings, I have been using the same thing, my Zoom account is updated, everything is correct, but it's not allowing me. So this can happen. So all he has to do is log out of that particular application, log in back again using the credentials which he has used to register in the meeting.
So my last question is, after the meeting, can I get a list of who all attended the meeting, like in attendance?
Registration required option. When you are scheduling the meeting, if you click registration required, and if you have enabled all the participants are registering through an registered email ID in a safer option, you will have an option to retrieve the information, not only who and all attended, you can have the option that how many people attended at what time they left, how many members were there for what duration. All these particular will be available. So you can download all this information, particularly in a business session, how long the participants were there and all, you can retrieve it. if the registration required was enabled. If that setting was not done, it is not possible to know how many people have attended unless you monitor through the participants chat or window or any other test.
There is one report to Smasan Navneeta from Zoom account management. There is a usage report, which will actually give all the people who have logged in through their emails. That can be done even if the registration is not there. From the Zoom account management, go to report section in that usage reports, and then you can click to find out who all had come in at what time, etc., and how much was the duration, etc. will be given.
Interesting. Yes, there is an option, but they have to use their email, right?
Email ID. If you don't, then I don't think that will be registered.
Exactly.
They have
if
to
they
log
don't
in
give
using
email IDs, log in using email IDs.
For example, I'm the host and I have to give the other person, the co-host, permission. By mistake, I have given the host permission. Is it possible to revoke that?
If you give co-host rights to the other person, the easiest one is that other person has to give back you the host rights. But if you are a owner of the account, you can have the option to reclaim host. There is an option to reclaim the host. But if you should be the owner, for example, I created the meeting, I am the owner of the meeting, and I know the username and password of this particular Zoom account where the meeting is happening. And if I done it by mistake, I have the option to click that host, 3 dots, there will be an option coming reclaim host. So I can click that and I can gain the access of host again. He will be automatically be a host. But if you're not the owner, only a host, it's not possible. The other person has to make you as host.